Krillin. He's small, unassuming, he's a bit of a bitch, but he's also the strongest Earthling, and I'm going to show you why. I'm totally not Mark, and this is the Power Level series. Episode 3, Krillin. Krillin is a human-type Earthling, aged 43 to 44, taking into account the 132 days he spent dead. His techniques include the Solar Flare, the Kamehameha, and the Kienzan, otherwise known as the Destructo Disc. There are 6 officially stated power levels for Krillin, those being 206, 1770, 1500, over 10,000, 13,000, and finally 75,000. During the time period between the 22nd Budokai and Raditz, Krillin trains with Roshi and Goku on and off, with little motivation other than for a portion of that to surpass Goku. Over the course of those 8 years, Krillin's power level rises from what has to be roughly 130 when he faces Master Roshi to 206 by the time Raditz dies, which is an increase of 60% overall. Similar to Roshi, Bulma uses the modified scouter to read Krillin's power level after Raditz dies. It reads 206. Krillin, along with the other Z-Warriors, then go to train with Kami in preparation for the Saiyan invasion for approximately 1 year. And in that time period, Krillin boosts his power from a reading of 206 to 1770, which is an increase of 8.5 times. Skipping ahead, Krillin and Gohan land on Namek, and are already attracting attention due to their above average power levels. However, the most significant, measurable boost in power Krillin receives comes from Guru, when he draws out his hidden power. This one is sort of difficult to pin down. It is stated that during his battle with Guldo, his power had grown from the mid-1000s to over 10,000. What's interesting is that in Daizenshuu 7, while Krillin is fighting Recoome, and I use the term fighting loosely, his power level has already risen to 13,000. This is important as it gives us evidence to support the case that Guru's power boosts work on a gradual but steady increment. In the short amount of time between Guldo's death and Krillin's altercation with Recoome, he has already increased by almost 3,000. And even though he wasn't a match for the big bads of the arc, his power level increased dramatically during the events of Namek, topping off at a whopping power level of 75,000 by the time Frieza kills him. This is the increase that made it impossible for Tenshinhan, Yamcha, and Roshi to catch up. This was the increase that made Krillin the absolute strongest Earthling. Once he is revived after 132 days, there is no mention of training by Krillin. After the news of the androids drops, he begins training with Roshi for 3 years. Perhaps with Goku also, but again this is just guesswork based on their relationship. The only training reference I have regarding Krillin is the 8-year time span between the 22nd Budokai and the Raditz saga. Again, during this time he increased by about 60%. So what's different? The android's arrival has left Krillin highly motivated. He has improved greatly since then, but the time frame for improvement is significantly less. All that considered, I think an 80% increase will suffice. It took him 8 years to get that kind of an increase before, but now that he has the correct motivation and is more experienced, he can achieve that in 3 years of intense training, bringing his power level up to 135,000 by the time the androids touch down. During the Android and Cell saga, Krillin isn't really used in a fighting capacity, mainly there to help garner sympathy for the android's angle overall, never entering the time chamber or seen to train even once. Moving on to the Buu saga, both Toriyama and Yamcha state that of all the Earthlings, Krillin is the strongest. Gohan, however, states that Krillin no longer fights, but using that, there is no way of knowing whether or not Krillin stopped fighting recently or a long time ago. Judging from the length of his hair, it could have been a number of years ago. 8 years have passed, and so perhaps I'll give him a diminishment of about 5%, taking into account that for a year or two, he may have kept up his training, but honestly, this is incredibly hard to judge. Taking that diminishment into account, Krillin now has a power level of 128,250 by the end of the Buu saga. Once the Buu saga concludes, over the 6 years leading up to the events of episode 75, Krillin does not train and therefore I will diminish his strength. I think a diminishment of about 10% seems fair. It is however important to note that his biggest problem is that he doesn't believe in himself, that his own mind blocks his true potential as a fighter, leaving Krillin with a power level of 115,425. Krillin's biggest problem throughout Super, and really the only story he's had a leading role in thus far, is his self-belief, or lack thereof. He may have a power level near the 120,000s, but because of his lack of self-belief, he doesn't access or use the strength to its fullest potential. I'd liken this on some level to Gohan's frame of mind when he touched down at the beginning of the Saiyan invasion. Gohan would be set up by both Krillin and Piccolo, but would freeze instead of fight. The funny thing I think about this example is that Krillin was the one swallowing his fear in that scene. What happened? Well, Krillin was always very realistic throughout Dragon Ball and knew his limitations. It's one of the reasons why he's a very interesting character. But that never stopped him from participating in the action throughout Dragon Ball and well into Z. But something happened to his character in the Frieza saga. Killed in a malicious and frankly terrifying looking way, powerless to do anything. I believe this is the root of why Krillin was more doubtful of his abilities as a fighter thereafter. He did, however, always maintain a great ability to sense how strong his opponents and the people around him were. And honestly, that's the problem. As this list goes on, you'll see that these power level estimates get crazier and crazier. Krillin is a human, the strongest human at that according to Akira Toriyama. So during and after Frieza's arc, he was faced with challenges he really could contribute little to. This continues and honestly gets worse and worse throughout the Buu arc, ultimately coming to a head in Super's Resurrection of F chapter, wherein Krillin, even though he is surrounded by his closest friends who are themselves skilled fighters, is frozen by fear. Unable to bring himself to fight back, he completely lost touch with his self-belief and reality. Reassurance from his friends keeps him in that fight, but this was a first for fully grown adult Krillin, overestimating someone. He had gotten so used to being a spectator that he never considered he would be worth anything in a fight anymore. Then came episodes 75 and 76 of Dragon Ball Super. In there lied a great story about Krillin finding his self-belief once again, finding the ability to calm and focus his ki and mind. I believe this instance really helped Krillin gain greater strength, emotionally and otherwise. Having only fought a Super Shenron illusion, it's really difficult to gauge how strong he is now. Because honestly, this is territory we haven't seen Krillin set foot in since the beginning of the Namek saga. He can now focus on what's important to him, like protecting his family. It's fair to assume that before this enlightenment phase for Krillin in Dragon Ball Super, Ten Shinhan would have wiped the floor with him. Not because Krillin couldn't compare, but because he couldn't believe he could. It really is mind over matter. His power level, I believe, remains in the region of 115,425. But after this Zen state was achieved, it's hard to know if he is in fact stronger or if he wasn't able to tap into his full potential due to mental blocks prior to this reawakening. Only time will tell, I guess. It's possible that this state grants him greater power. I, however, think it's more likely a form of ki control and manipulation. Instead of flaring around his body, his aura seems calmed as well as focused in his hands, ready for combat. Again, this could be a sign of greater power, but there is literally nothing known about this form when it pertains to boost in strength. Anyone who has watched Krillin's performances in Dragon Ball knows how fun it is to see him participate in a tournament. With moves like the Kienzan and his new Zen state added to his arsenal, I honestly can't wait to see him in a tournament setting again. And honestly, it wouldn't be as fun without him. He's easily one of my favorite characters. Now, what do you guys think Krillin's power level is? Leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, rumor has it there's a really nice looking subscribe button beneath this video. I don't know, why don't you give it a click, see what happens. This has been the Power Level series. As always, I've been Totally Not Mark. Thank you so much for watching. Whew. 3 down, 7 to go. Something tells me that these are going to get progressively more and more difficult and complex as I go up. Yeah, I love Krillin. He's always been one of my favorite characters, even though he has pretty much no redeemable battle qualities in a battle series like Dragon Ball. Oh, also, if you guys want like specific kinds of videos, like if you want me to do top 10s on a specific topic, or if you guys have any suggestions for any videos at all, just leave a comment down below and I'll read all of them. I read pretty much every comment, so. Oh, also, thank you for the huge amount of positive feedback in the last video. I really appreciate that. This series is pretty much going to be every single week until we run out of Universe 7 team members. I'll upload every Wednesday at 2 PM East Coast time. It's going to be a fun show. If you guys would like to see more of this, subscribe. If you don't, thanks for watching, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. I definitely am. I'm editing this at 3 in the morning. Awesome. Don't say I don't try, guys. Don't say I don't try. Right, so I better get back to work on the next guy. It should be fun. Should be controversial. Perhaps even more controversial than Krillin being stronger than Tien. So I'm gonna go hit the old dusty trail, and by dusty trail I mean bed, and by hit it I mean sleep. So yeah, I'm gonna go sleep in my bed, or my dusty trail, whatever you want to call it. Later, guys!